One of the main themes of this channel is that we're disciples of Christ and disciples of art, and I see an overlap a lot between the two, and I just want to talk about some of those things. So the first idea is just the Dunning-Kruger effect. If you haven't seen this, it's a graph that basically charts knowledge over time. So what happens is at the beginning of any endeavor, you shoot up in knowledge in a short period of time. So if this is time here, in a short period of time, you believe you have a lot of knowledge, and quickly you realize you don't have as much knowledge as you thought you did. And then there's a slow, steady, gradual increase in knowledge like that. And then it kind of plateaus, and then getting more and more knowledge over time just takes just less and less increments. And you acquire true knowledge. This is all true knowledge, right? So at the beginning, this is all what you think you know. You don't know anything, and then you actually start to learn things. And I found often the Christian life is a lot like that, and the art journey is certainly like that. And what I mean is that there's a baby stage to both things. Now, right off the bat, I don't want to compare the two in terms of value. I just want to talk about sort of the overlaps of growing in general and how artistic and spiritual growth share a lot in common, at least from my personal vantage point, which is part of the reason that this channel exists at all, is I see a lot of overlap between the life of an artist and growing in this journey and the life of a Christian. They both require a lot of discipline. They both are going to increase in knowledge over time. You're going to start off thinking you know a lot. A lot of baby Christians, when they start out, are very zealous, right? They're super zealous for the Lord, and they think they understand things completely. And then over time, you realize you don't. And I don't think the Dunning-Kruger chart is perfect for the journey of a Christian, right? Because you went from knowing nothing about Jesus to at least some level of knowledge. And I think from there, it just keeps going up. I don't think there's ever a valley, but there's kind of a valley of humility, right? Where you begin to be teachable. And I found that the best disciples of the men that I've walked alongside with, and even the women in community groups, the best disciples are the best learners, and the best learners are the most teachable. So if you walk into the church knowing that you need to be taught, you're going to grow a lot. If you walk into the church thinking you know it all, and you have a reluctancy for relationship and being poured into, you're going to have a hard time growing. And that probably means there's a heart posture within you that isn't fully surrendered to the Lord yet. Because I think someone who's fully surrendered to the Lord wants to be taught his word and know more about him. You have to have a base level of heart posture of wanting to learn, to grow. And it's no different in the arts. People will plateau in their skill set because they refuse to learn new things. They might say they want to learn, but all their actions and all of their interests do not align with that goal. So if you say you want to grow, but you don't want to challenge yourself, it's going to be really tough to actually see growth happen. And similarly, in the Christian walk, it's not as intentional to grow, I don't think. I think trials happen as the Lord wills. And when they come along, like James says, count it all joy, brothers, when you encounter trials of various kinds. James 1:2, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. So trials and challenges in our spiritual walk just kind of happen to us. We typically don't seek them out. It's not really a healthy activity to seek out a lot of conflict and friction in your walk with the Lord. I say the smoother the better, okay? But trials produce steadfastness in your faith, because trials are going to test your heart and where you stand with the Lord. However, challenging yourself in the arts is very deliberate. I can choose subjects that I'm uncomfortable with to push my skill set in that direction. However, there is still a friction and there's a frustration that comes with growth. Things that really test you, things that really push your skill set, your knowledge, your faith in your own abilities when it comes to the arts, and your faith in the Lord when it comes to your spiritual walk with him, because he wants to purify your heart to fully surrender and be with him. And in the arts, you want to remove the blemishes of your skill set that are holding you back from producing better work. So there's overlap, but it's obviously not a one-to-one. And this gets into AI a little bit. And I know I did a video on AI, and I'm probably going to keep talking about it because I keep thinking about it. And one of the things that AI does not allow you to do is experience growth. There is no artistic growth that happens with AI because there's no challenge. There's no overcoming. There's no frustration. There's no grit you need to have. It just simply exists, and it just simply starts to exist. Imagine offloading your spiritual walk onto AI. you would experience none of the Lord. You would have none of that personal relationship and connection. In the same way, offloading all of your skill set onto AI or using it way too often, I've started to use it a lot more just as a search engine. And even that, I found my brain becoming lazier, just not recalling things properly. And so I'm trying to lessen that. But I'm just saying that even in a very mild use case of just replacing it for Google, I can feel the effects on my head of not being able to think critically as much and recall information as well. And if I'm offloading my artistic skill set onto this thing, which I don't, but if I did, I'm robbing myself of the personal challenge and therefore the personal growth that comes through the trial. If you could offload your spirituality onto AI, you would have no relationship with the Lord. There would be no trial. There would be no joy in the trial. It simply would just spit out the answer. It would spit out the relationship, and you wouldn't know him because you wouldn't have to walk through those things with him, and you wouldn't see his faithfulness. You wouldn't know what it took to make that piece of art. Every time I make a piece of art, there is something within it. Every time there's a struggle. And I love the struggle. It's problem solving. And so to use AI just robs me and robs anyone else who uses it of that growth. You do not grow when you use AI. You might be producing things faster. You might be getting to an end result quicker. But that's sort of an ends justify the means. Remember that art really is about the process. It really is about the journey. The end result is just that. It's just a result. What it took to get there is actually what matters. It really is. And you won't know that until you experience it. And if you continue to rob yourself of that experience, you will never know what any of these other people are talking about. But I imagine that if you are creative, you see AI similarly. You see AI not just as a threat to your job, because ultimately the Lord provides for us. So I'm not too worried about AI taking my job ever. Like he's always going to provide. I see using AI as a threat to my artistic integrity and my artistic growth and my personal growth. It's mostly just about being on a journey. And a spiritual journey, which is, of course, of infinite more value, is with a person that I get to know more and more because I spend time with them. And there's no shortcut for that. And trials bring me closer to him. And they are difficult. And artistic trials, although, once again, not as important or as valuable, they are nonetheless challenges that push me and grow me and get me closer to my ideal skill set. And I cannot acquire that skill set without the hardship. I cannot mature in my craft without the hardship. I cannot mature in my walk with the Lord without the hardship, without doing the time. There's no shortcut for that. There really is no shortcut for getting better at your craft. You just have to do it. You have to do the things you don't want to do. There is no shortcut to maturing in the Lord. It is simply a walk with him. That's what it means to be on this journey. That's what it means to say yes to him. Follow me. Become my disciple. You're on the journey. And to simply try and shortcut that in some way by either consuming things on Instagram, consuming shorts, consume whatever it is you're consuming that is taking the place of actually you being in the Word, you doing the time with the Lord, you're robbing yourself of personal growth. The one-liners are not going to make you a spiritually mature person. The bumper sticker spiritual slogans are not going to make you a spiritually mature person. That is the equivalent of AI, of offloading your walk to AI. Do the time. Same in the arts. Do the time. Endure the hardships. Endure the trials. Enjoy them. When it comes to the arts, there are significant trials that will test our faith that are not fun. But in the arts, at least, the stakes are much lower. And with that, I'm just going to pray us out. Lord, it is difficult to find joy in the trials sometimes, but you are there with us. Help us to ask for wisdom, just like the next verse in James. Help us to ask for wisdom, Lord, when we encounter those trials and we don't know what to do. We don't know how to overcome this hardship. Be with us, Lord. And when it comes to our craft, Lord, give us those breakthroughs. Lord, bless the work of our hands. Allow us to create things that move people, that bless you, that bring you glory. Help us endure to the end, Lord. Help us to be steadfast in our faith. I just pray for anyone out there who's doubting, whether it's in their craft or in you. Help them to remain steadfast, Lord. Give them iron feet and plant them, Lord. Pray all this in your name. In Jesus' name, amen.